So during last session we got difficulty. I hope I don't see that now. Yeah. So we are talking about dependency injection. Okay. We talked about all the classes, right? We talked about all the layers in MVC, how they will work. Each class has a poso class you can write. Each class has a poso class you can write. Controller, service, repository. So for each class, it may need some properties. For each class, it may need some properties or some object. Everything as a poser, right? We considered everything as a poser. So, so each poser, why is funny? Okay. Your poser can have some dependencies. Either it's a repository, service, or controller. It may need some dependencies. Okay. As a repository need to connect with the database. So it may need some dependencies like connection pool object. So connection pool object may be dependency here. Connection pool object is the dependency parameter here. It is the dependency parameter for repository. And for service may want to talk with the repository. Using connection pool, repository will talk with the databases. Using connection pool, repository may talk with databases. Same way, service if it wants to talk with repository for doing CRUD operations. So repository is the dependency here. Repository repo is the dependency parameters for service class. Apart from this, it may have so many dependencies. If you see simple flow, okay, if you see simple flow, connection pool is the dependency for repository, and repository is the dependency for service, so that it can be able to talk with repositories, and controller may have dependency of service. So the service is the dependency parameter, so that using this dependency parameter it can able to talk with service. So obviously when front end send a request, right? So this request will be forwarded to controller, controller to service, service to repository, repositories to database. Okay. So the using dependency injection, whatever it needs to connect with the next layer, right? That next layer properties we can able to pass here. Whatever dependencies it needs, that we can able to pass. In a simple flow, you can see for a simple flow, right? For repositories, connection pools, or connections are a dependencies. For services, repositories as a dependencies. For controllers as services as a dependencies. If you consider all these dependency properties, we can able to pass from Spring container. Okay. So now, which kind of properties we can pass, and using which approach we can able to pass? Your class can have any kind of data type. Either it can be a controller, or a service, or a repository. Your class can have any kind of dependency here, right? As I said in earlier session, string dependencies you can have, right? Number dependencies you can have, integer type dependencies or int type. You can have char type dependencies. Okay, you can have boolean type dependencies. You can have any object as a dependency, custom object. You can have any existing object, API objects. You can have dependencies. You can have arrays as a dependencies, collections, anything you can have a dependency parameter here. So am I able to pass these dependencies? If I have strings or if I have integers, am I able to pass them? One time copy, two times it is pasted. So any kind of variable that you can have as a dependency in your class, any kind of variable. It can be a simple object, it can be a complex object, or array, or collection. Anything you can have as a dependency here. where and the controller or service or repository or any other utility class. Can be anything, controller or service or repository or utilities, anything. You can call it as poso. Your poso class can have any type of dependency properties you can have in your class, which means simple variables. Okay. So these variables you can have in your class level and you can pass them via anything, right? If you want to pass string or integer, character, boolean, anything, you can pass them here via a setter method or via constructor or via annotation. Okay, via annotation. Three approaches we have. One is by using setter method you can pass, one by using constructor you can pass, and one by using annotation you can pass. Use any approach. You can use any approach, setter, constructor, or annotation. What they will offer, using this any approach, right? Using this any approach, you can pass data from configuration files to your class. Here configuration can be your XML file or a properties file, right? What is the benefit? I can able to do the changes easily if it is properties file or XML file. No need to interrupt my code. Instead of hard coding in my class, if I put my properties in XML file, it is easy to do the changes. Today I am passing one string, directly hard coding here in my class. So tomorrow my requirements are changing and I wanted to change that string variable. If I hard code it, what I need to do? Again, I need to go to source code. I need to do modifications, recompilation, lot of retesting, deployment. That all we have to perform. But instead of hard coding here, if I able to pass them from my properties file, it's a easy, flexible way to do the changes during runtime. If you think from string variables, integer variables point of view, it may look simple to you. But when it comes to objects, right, it is completely changing the dependency structure. It is completely changing the dependency chain. It is completely changing the dependency between two objects when it is objects type dependency. Okay. So any kind of object you can pass at runtime from here to here. At runtime, any kind of object also you can pass. Passing strings integers maybe looks simple, but passing objects is a passing objects is going to provide great features to us. We will see, okay, how that is really a great feature if I can able to pass objects via XML to my class. Okay, that we will see. Okay, so here what I want to say here is via this dependency injection concept, right? Via this dependency injection concept, I can able to pass anything from this properties or XML file to my class. Anything I can able to pass from XML or properties file to my class. Who will pass it? IOC container, right? We talked about our IOC containers. So this IOC container will read data. IOC container will read data. It will read data from your XML or properties and it can able to pass via setter or constructor or via annotation. Okay, three styles it have. To pass the data, right? It can use setter method or constructor or annotation also. These three ways it can use. Annotation is the advanced approach. Nowadays what we are using is annotations only. This approach only is the current approach. Okay, but let us see how setter will work, how constructor will work. Okay, let's see how setter will work and how constructor will work here, right, to pass any kind of data. Okay, shall we start with setter now? We'll see setter first. Okay, via setter method how to pass, then we will see constructor and later annotation. Okay, let us see via setter how we can pass this data to here. We created one example here, right? We created one example here and added all the libraries. I created a simple DAO class, means a repository class I created for doing simple CRUD operation. I wanted to save data, So our repository I created this layer. Okay, repository class I created here, and this repository class wants to talk with layer. Repository need to send data to database layer from here to here. So to talk with database, I need a driver, URL, username, password. You know, from JDBC you learned. So this driver's information, instead of hard coding here, I wanted to get that data from XML file to here via setter methods. So for driver, URL, username, password. For four properties, you need four setter methods. Okay. When it is a setter dependency injection at a time, setter dependency injection can accept one variable only. At a time, one variable only it will accept. One variable only. You can able to pass one driver or one URL, username, password. So for each variable you need to have one setter method, but not at the case of constructor. While using constructor dependency injection, you can pass these four variables in a single go at a time. But during setters, right, you can pass one variable data with one setter only. Okay. So for these four variables, you need to have four setter methods: setter driver, set URL, set username, and set to password. Just to type set and control space, you will see auto suggest set password. So use these methods: set driver, set URL, set username, set password. Okay. If I get these properties, right, if I get these properties, then only I can able to write my JDBC code here. So let's pass these variables first. From where? Create a XML file and pass that data. Okay, I'll just copy this XML file and there I will do configurations. Okay, now I need to configure this student to POSO, student to DAO, which is there in DAO package. I need to configure it in my Spring XML file. Okay, so which tag we will be using here? To configure our POSO classes, we need to use bean tag and a class attribute. Here you need to pass your package name, which means DAO dot class name, student to DAO. My package name dot class name. Fine, perfect. So if you keep press control and if you hover it, right, you can see some highlighter coming, right? One highlight line is coming when I hover this mouse, right? So why this highlighter is coming? Because within this package this class is there. If I put some different package name, dbd something, and if I hover it, it is not highlighting because this class is there, not there. Just to press control and hover it, so you will able to see whether you properly added your class here or not. Okay, DAO, now it is there. Okay, so I configured DAO class here, and between this bean and bean tag, I can pass my properties to setter method to pass data to my variables, right? Now I want to use setter method. How to call setter method? In your XML file, between bean and bean tag, right? Between bean and bean tag, you need to use property tags. Property tag is for setter method. Okay, this is for setter method. Property tag is for setter method. And for constructor, there is another tag called constructor hyphen argument. This is for constructor. Okay, for setter method, property tag; for constructor, constructor argument tag. So we have two different tags here. Okay, yeah. Hmm. Hmm. No, I'll be giving material. Okay. So again, in last session also I said better having your hand note also. Okay. So because as you are writing, right, that will be become Bible for you. So everything you can refer easily, you can understand. Okay. So yeah, now here into this DAO class, how many dependencies I have? Four dependencies: driver, URL, username, password. To pass these four dependencies, I have four gateways, means four setter methods. Via this setter method, driver I can pass. Via the setter, URL, username, password. So let's pass them here. Which tag I need to use? Property tag. And in this property tag, you need to configure your setter method name. What are our setter method names? Set driver, set URL, set username, and set password. And values, how you can pass? Here you can pass space value. So can you tell me what is the driver class name for Arkil? Is it arkil.jdbc.arkil driver? Correct? Yes. It is saying it is available. Arkil.jdbc.arkil driver. And what about URL? JDBC colon, Arkil colon, thin colon at the rate, localhost colon 1521 is the port number, colon XE is my database. Correct? And username, password. System, I think value for password is admin. Okay. So these are my properties. You can pass values here. First value driver given, URL given, username given, password given. Now, will this properties pass to my BO class? Yes. When you load that XML file, right, it will pass. Okay, you have all the ingredients to prepare your food. Let's say to prepare biryani, you have all the ingredients. So if you see, this is the container to prepare the biryani, and these all are the properties to prepare it. Where you need to put it? You need to put it on stove and you need to start cooking it. Okay, so here I have, I mean, when this complete biryani will be prepared, once you add all the ingredients and if you put it on stove, then it will be prepared. So here I have my biryani object and adding all my ingredients here. Now what I need to do, I need to prepare it. I need to cook it. Cooking means just you need to load this XML file into container. Then it will cook. Cook means it will create your object and it will pass all these parameters into it. Okay, whenever you load this XML file into your container, until then this data will be remaining here only. Whenever you load this XML file, once this object is created, it will access your setter methods and it will pass the data. Okay, so now let's see. New test class, creating a test package, find the class, main method. So I'll use application context. We know, right, this is our advanced container. New class path XML application context. Pass your XML file name here. It is there in resources folder /test.xml. Okay. Now your file is loading into container. Now if you want proof that these values are coming here, just to put one SOP statement here. System.out.println, print your driver. So if driver is printing means this setDriver class method is calling. Print URL also. If URL printing means this setURL method is calling. Print username also. Print password also. Okay, I'm not doing anything. Even this CRUD operation also not implemented yet. Just to check. I'm trying to cooking it. Just trying to loading this XML file. Whether it is passing all that parameters to my class or not. First I wanted to check it. Not passing. Means something is fishy with our code. What? Error creating bean with student. name, it is saying some name it is using, but we didn't mention. Inbuilt it is taking a name because we didn't give any name. Okay, as we didn't give any name, it is using it. Now it is calling a setter method. Setter driver bean property set driver is not writable or has an invalid setter method. Does the parameter type of setter method match the return type of the getter? What it is trying to say here is we are using property tag, right? While using property tag, you need not to put the set prefixes we have given, right? Our method, of course, our method name is set only, but you need not to mention that there. You need not to mention that there. You can take this out, set. Because we are using property tag, the set prefixes are not required. Set prefixes are not required. But here method names, obviously it should be same. Set only. Set prefix should be there for each method. Okay. Here not required. Now try to run it. See, now it is printing your driver. Driver name is printing. Who is printing it? Your setter method. Who called it? Your container called it. Why called it? It passed driver value to setter method. That's why you are seeing this line number 10 output. Same way URL also, line number 14. And here username printing, line number 18. Password printing, line number 22. Which means all your setter methods executed. So via your setter methods, this data is already supplied. This data is already supplied. So whenever you start your container, setter methods are executing. Perfect. So your data is available now here. So after getting via setter method, what we are doing? Yes. Hmm. Yeah. Whenever you run, right? Whenever you load, your test.xml will be loaded into container. What container do? Container immediately it will create object of all bean classes. It will create objects for all your bean classes. How many bean classes we have? As of now, one bean class only. Okay, after creation of this bean class, what it will do immediately, if it finds setter methods, it will call each setter method. IOC will call each setter and pass the data which you given, right? Whichever data you have given, right? Your server. What IOC means your container only. I'm naming it IOC. This is IOC container, or you can say your container. Okay, server. Yes, this is your server. That is what from day one I'm saying. These are your servers. Your server only will do this job. Okay, your server will create object. Your server will pass data also to your object. Once object created, right? This data also will be given. You can imagine, right? Object, whenever this line executed, right? If you run it in very slow motion, right? It will create one object into your RAM, JVM memory. Once that object creation is done, it will call each setter method and pass the data to your JVM. Each setter method of your object it will call, and this data it will assign into that variable. So first thing it will create your object. Student bean object will be created. Whenever you load, right, XML file, we have a DAO class and we have XML file. Finally we loaded into our client class. So here our container is there. So DAO configured into XML. XML loaded into client. Once this client class executed, what it will do? It will create your object into JVM. Once this is executed, what it will do? Your DAO object is created here. First step. So student DAO object is created. But this DAO object is having four properties, right? driver URL username passwords. So to that variables also this container only will pass that. First thing, it will create object with empty fields only. Driver field, URL field, username, passwords are empty only at the beginning. They are empty only at the beginning. When it created object, right, it may be very small to you, but yeah. So this driver URL username passwords, right, it will create with empty fields. Then whatever data we have in XML, right, first after object creation it will assign each value also. Once object creation is done with empty fields, as a next step it will assign each value. Driver value it will pass, URL it will pass, username it will pass, password it will pass. Finally JVM object, inside JVM whatever DO object you have, right, this object is having driver URL username passwords information also. Okay, now somebody try to access it. Somebody try to access this DO object, and if they try to access driver URL username passwords, that will be available because your container is already created object and it supplied all that data. So whenever you access DO object with the getter methods, right, you will see driver URL username passwords information, but because that information is passed to your object. So that is what happening here. So via this property tag, when you pass this data by calling your setter method, this data will be passed to your object. So now your object is containing driver URL username password. Okay, now I am confident that this driver URL username password data will be available within my object. So shall I connect with the database by using that properties? I can write. I can connect, right? So I'll be connecting now. I have one method save student. In this save student, I want to write JDBC code class dot for name driver. Shall I pass the driver value here? The data anyway supplying into my object, right? So this driver value is available. So driver is loading. Now I'll create connection. Connection con equal to driver manager dot get connection. Get connection. You need to pass URL, username, password. Driver manager dot get connection. So it will provide you connection. Using this connection, create a statement. Are you guys able to follow? Simple concept only, no? But this JDBC code is not required, but to make you realize, right, from this session itself, I'm writing this code also. Statement. Now using statement, execute, update. I'll try to insert some data here. Insert into student August 23 table. Values. Okay, for timing I'll hard code values here. Okay, don't mind. I'll pass ID. I'll pass name here. Email. Address also. Okay, now when I execute this code, some data need to insert into student August 23 table. What need to insert? ID, name, email, address. So let me create a table. I have Arkill homepage. Go to Arkill homepage. Okay. Connect. Okay, connected. This is local Arkill database only. Okay, web access also they given. So now create table name is student August. Here I need to create ID, number, primary key. Next variable name, var char2 of something 40. Email and address. Let me give enough memory. Missing keyword var char to create table name, ID, number, primary. Okay, table is created. Okay, table created. Now let's see any data here. Select the star from table. No data found. Okay, fine. Table is there. Now if somebody call this save method and pass data, it need to insert the data here. If there is any exception, right, let us print a stack also. Okay, let me call the save student method of my DO class. Already container created DO object, right, and given data also to your setter methods. Now get the same bean here. Which bean? Student DO bean. Which means I am trying to getting the object which is created in my JVM. I am trying to getting the object which is created in JVM with all the data. Who created? Your IOC only. That's why I'm asking IOC, give me that object via getBean method. I'm asking IOC, give me that object. Okay, it will say, I'll give you with this DO object. Okay, you got the DO object. Now call save student method. I'll give ID1, some name I will give, and some email I will give here. That's it. Now run and see, will it able to connect with database? Okay, so yeah, driver's information printed and this is saved actually. No output statement we added here, right? That's why nothing able to see. But go to database and run it. One record is saved, Rajesh. You guys can see, right? This data is saved. How it is possible? When I see my code here, when somebody see this code, they can understand easily what is this class.forName. Okay, driver passing, URL username, passwords passing. And when I see this code here, you will see, okay, there is no driver hard coded, no URL hard coded, no username, password hard coded. Then how this data came here? This data came from your XML file. From here, the data came. So what is the benefit if you see from the strings? Tomorrow, if you change, if your mind changes, okay, from database Oracle to MySQL, you may configure here MySQL properties without changing your code. You need not to touch your class file again. Though you wanted to shift to MySQL or DB2 or SQL Server, any database, go to XML and do the changes. So that is the benefit basically this dependency injection concept giving you. Okay, that is the benefit it is giving you. At runtime you can do so many changes without doing again recompilations. You can do changes here. You can do changes and you can connect with the new databases. So that is the flexibility. So lot of flexibility we will get going forward. You will realize it. Okay. So for now you understand, right, how setter dependency injection is working. So in case of setter dependency injection, what I am doing, I am passing each property one by one. Driver, URL, username, password. So compulsory you need to pass all these four properties, otherwise your code will not work. Without giving username, password, will it connect? No. Without giving driver, will it work? Maybe no. Without URL, no. So all these properties are mandatory. What if I intentionally, if I don't pass this password here, I'm commenting it. Means password value I'm not giving it. So intentionally I'm trying to hide it and I want to pass one more data here. I'm getting exception. What is that? Invalid arguments. What is that invalid argument in the call? It is not clearly giving the exception, but the problem is we intentionally forget to pass password. So it is unable to connect with your database. So setter, in case of setter dependency injection, container will not ask you to pass, it will not say please pass driver, please pass URL, username, password. It won't request you. It's your job to pass every parameter here. One by one, you need to pass each parameter here. So it's your responsibility via setter methods. Via setter methods, when you need to pass all the arguments, you have to pass carefully. Okay, you have to pass carefully. Otherwise, how it can imagine your password? No, no, you should pass them. For setter method, we will be using property tag. The same code let us see in constructor. Same code let us see using constructor. I'll be writing one more class, student to DAO2. Okay. So the second class is constructor based class I wanted to write here. Now in constructor based class, I don't want all the setter methods. Okay, removed. What you want to do then? I want to pass driver URL username passwords through constructors. How many constructors we need to use to create one object? I can have 4 setter methods in one object. Not only 400 setter methods I can have. But whenever you want to create object for a class, how many constructors you need? One class can have any number of constructors. But to create one object, how many constructors I can use? For one object, one constructor only, right? So here I'll write only one constructor. That too, one parameterized constructor only. Source, right, default constructor and parameterized constructors. I'll be generating one parameterized constructor. Now there is no default constructor for my class. Even you create or Spring you create, it should call this parameterized constructor only. Constructor call. So this constructor need to be called. That too, it is having 4 parameters. Whoever is calling this student DAO2 constructor, compulsory he should pass. He or she should pass driver URL username password compulsory. If I pass only one argument, will it call this 4 argument constructor? No. When your constructor having 4 arguments, compulsory you need to pass 4 arguments. Then only that 4 arguments constructor will be called. If I compromise and if I try to pass only 2 arguments, it will check for 2 argument constructor. If it don't find, it will not call any 2 argument constructor. It will say, rather than calling it, it will give you exception. Hey man, there is no 2 argument constructor. Why you are giving only 2 arguments? So you have 4 argument constructor. So you need to call 4 arguments constructor only here. Let me create one more XML file, test2.xml, and try to call constructor from here. Okay, earlier in this XML file we used a setter method approach. Now in this XML try to use constructor approach. Your class name is student DAO2 and pass constructor arguments. How many arguments I have in this constructor? 4 arguments, driver URL username password. So same like your property tag, here we have for constructor argument tag. And what you can do for property tag, you have name, set driver, set URL, set username, set password. But we have constructor. What constructor name? Constructor name is also class name. So your container is not a fool to ask you what is your constructor name. If it asks what is your constructor name, It's obviously class name, right? So it is not going to ask you. So whereas in setter method as a developer you are writing it, so it will ask you what is your setter method name. But coming to constructor, it know your constructor name. Constructor name is student DAO2 only. So it know constructor name, but what about arguments? That you aware. You need to pass. Only values you should pass. So values also in a order you need to pass. You have to follow strictly this order. First to driver, then next to URL, then next to username, then next to password. You should not miss that order. Intentionally, if you want to miss, there is a way to do that. Okay. Let me first to pass values in a order only. Driver name, URL. I'm copying from here to here. Okay. Next constructor tag. First argument passed. Second argument passed. Third argument constructor argument value system. And the next argument, which is fourth argument, constructor argument value password. This is how you need to pass them in a strict order. You need to follow order. First to driver argument, next URL, next username, password. Intentionally, if you want to change the argument order, whenever you want to change the order, right? Which means I want to put username, password first, next driver name, URL. It doesn't have any special intelligence to recognize this is your username, this is password. It will consider the system as a driver. It will consider the system as a driver, and it will consider admin as a URL. So you should not confuse it. So it will consider system as a driver, admin as a password, and again this one as a username and this one as a password. Completely wrong. Your code will not execute. So always try to follow strict order if you see constructor argument. Okay, fine. By following order, I passed. The next execution is again same. Client 2, just pass your test2 XML. Okay, so it will give you student DAO2 object. Now try to insert Akil data into which way in student DAO being save method. Run it. Constructor calling means your constructor is called, data is also given, and the save method also executed. That's why no exception I see here. Fine. Go and see whether this object is inserted the data or not. Yes, Akhil data also recorded. This is also inserted. Okay. So using setter I can able to pass the data. Using constructor also I can able to pass the data. I have both the ways. In case of setter method, it is mandatory that you need to follow, you need to pass all the properties. You should not forget or you should not miss one property. If you miss it, your code will not work. If 4 properties are mandatory, you need to pass 4 values. In case of constructor, you should not miss the order. Anyway, it will force you to pass driver URL username password. But while passing, you should not miss the order. In the same order, you need to pass them. In case if you want to miss the order, if you want to jumble the order, follow index. Here we have index. Index starts from 1. I don't know, I believe 1 only. So index 1, 2, 3, 4. Put the indexes here. Index is not mandatory. By default, it will take the same index. But when you put the indexes and when you jumble it, it is okay. So I'll try to insert one more record 3. Run it. Okay, I got the error, which means index is starting from 0. Array style only. So pass from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, now run it. So third record also saved. Just a minute. Alright. Yes, sir. No problem. It's okay. 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 Yeah. So this record also inserted. Now if you want to jumble the order, you can jumble it now because index is already specified. Now put it wherever you want, but index you should not miss. So based on this index only it will pass. Zeroth one will pass as a first argument, first one will pass as a second argument, third argument, fourth argument. Okay, you can jumble and insert it. Okay, I'll insert one more data. Okay, Ashiki data insert. Now insert this record. We changed the order. Okay, we changed the order, but indexes are there, so no issues. It is executing perfectly. See, 4 records inserted. Okay, when there is a constructor, you should follow the order. If you don't want to follow the order, at least put this index so that it can understand where it need to place this and this. Okay, so this is how in these two ways we can pass data to our class via setter or constructor. Okay, so what is the benefit that you guys realized from the session? Hello. Hmm. Yeah, so passing data to the classes from XML file. Okay, what is the benefit? Hmm. Yes, so hard coding avoiding here. So hard coding avoiding from the strings, you will see only little bit small benefit only. Okay, this is very small benefit. Okay, smaller benefit only you are seeing here, passing this data via properties file for especially strings. But when it the case of object, okay, objects also we can pass. Okay, one class can take another object, one class can take another object. In case of objects, right, you will be seeing a great benefit, a bigger benefit. In a simple words what I can say is passing the string property is like a train. If you consider a train, right, in consider changing a small seat is like a string change. So one seat they can remove and they can install a new seat. But adding a new bogie or new container to the already existing train, right? If you have only 4 compartments, another compartment or another 2 compartments, if you want to add, right, how easily we can add them. Again, they will have plug and play. Easily they can add and remove. So that much big benefit you will see in objects dependency injection. Okay. Now this is smaller benefit only. We will be seeing a greater benefit, big benefits while passing objects. Okay. But of course, maybe that string variable may have larger impact also. Changing this driver means changing the complete database. Impact wise, you are changing from Arkill to MySQL. Already if you are paying license to Arkill like every year 1 million, and when you use free MySQL, that 1 million cost cutting you are doing by changing simple property here. No need to change much code also. Correct? So is it breaking? Hello? Is it clear? Still it's breaking. Or maybe some. Is it to everyone or am I breaking to everyone? Hello. Okay, so maybe some low internet. Okay, great. So tomorrow we will see, okay, more dependency types. We see only string type, right? This is what only we done. Okay, so my internet problem. Let me do this one. I'll switch my internet, okay? Just give me a minute. Okay. Now, hello. Am I audible now? Hello. Hello. You guys able to hear? Hello. Am I audible now? Is it okay? Is it breaking again or no? Right? Okay. Yeah, fine. So tomorrow, what we will discuss the remaining data types. Okay, the remaining data types we will see how to pass really objects or arrays or collections via setter, and constructor also same way you can pass. Okay, once we're done with this session, we will go with the annotations. Okay, so in which area annotations are useful, how it is really benefiting us, we'll see it. Okay, tomorrow we will be seeing all the dependency types. Okay, so for today what we have discussed is via setter method and via constructor how to pass values, via setter and via constructor how to pass values to our bean. Okay, so there are two more discussions. Okay, then we will conclude it. Dependency injection. Hmm. Hmm. So we will be seeing them, we will seeing all the remaining data types tomorrow. Okay.